Have you ever noticed that certain people don't insult you, don't openly challenge you, and don't confront you in any obvious way, yet something about their behavior around you feels subtly hostile? They hesitate before speaking, they become strangely rigid, their tone tightens, or they withdraw altogether, and nothing you can point to explains it. That discomfort isn't random. It's intimidation, but not the kind people imagine. Intimidation rarely looks like fear, it looks like resistance. Because when someone feels internally threatened by you, their nervous system doesn't react with honesty, it reacts with protection. What they're protecting isn't their safety, it's their self-image. Today, we're examining 5 psychological signs someone is secretly intimidated by you, not in a flattering way, not in a cinematic way, but in the quiet, unspoken way that shapes how power, respect, and tension move beneath everyday interactions. Before we begin, something needs to be clear. Intimidation has very little to do with dominance. It isn't caused by volume, aggression, or control. Most intimidation is cognitive. It occurs when your presence disrupts someone's internal narrative about who they are. Your stability highlights their instability. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your self-possession makes their insecurity impossible to ignore. And the mind does not tolerate that easily. So instead of consciously acknowledging discomfort, the ego intervenes. It reframes, it deflects, it distorts. That distortion is what you see as strange behavior. The first sign is dismissal disguised as indifference. Someone who is intimidated by you will often minimize what you do. They'll casually reduce your achievements. They'll label your effort as luck. They'll suggest your competence is common or unimpressive. Not aggressively, almost carelessly. But psychologically, this is not casual at all. This is a defensive maneuver. If they were to accurately assess your capability, they would be forced to confront the distance between where they are and where they believe they should be. The ego avoids that reckoning by devaluing the comparison. They're not diminishing you, they're protecting themselves from self-awareness. The second sign is concealed competition. People who are intimidated often insist they are not competitive, but around you, their behavior tells a different story. They measure, they track, they compare. They insert their accomplishments immediately after you speak. They subtly redirect attention toward themselves. They grow quiet or rigid when you succeed. This isn't ambition, it's status anxiety. You represent an uninvited reference point, and because they cannot resolve that comparison internally, they oscillate between imitation, rivalry, and withdrawal. What reveals the truth is consistency. This behavior appears around you and only around you. That specificity is not coincidence. The third sign is avoidance of psychological depth. Someone who feels intimidated by you will often resist genuine engagement. They keep conversations superficial. They deflect personal questions. They struggle with silence. They avoid sustained eye contact. Depth requires emotional regulation, and when you are internally composed, observant, and attentive, people feel exposed. Not because you are interrogating them, but because presence removes distractions. And without distraction, unresolved internal tension surfaces. You are not intimidating because you dominate space. You are intimidating because you occupy it fully. And that level of presence forces people to confront themselves. The fourth sign is narrative control. This one is subtle and often misunderstood. Someone intimidated by you may attempt to define you before others can. They interpret your intentions publicly. They explain your behavior on your behalf. They frame your personality in ways that slightly limit or distort it. Rarely through lies, more often through selective emphasis. Psychologically, this is an attempt to reduce uncertainty. If they can contain you conceptually, they don't have to sit with the ambiguity of your influence. This behavior appears most often when you don't explain yourself, when you don't seek validation, and when your motivations are not easily readable. Ambiguity unsettles insecure minds, so they impose structure where none was offered. The fifth sign is asymmetrical treatment. This is the most telling indicator. Observe how they interact with others, then observe how they interact with you. They may be relaxed with everyone else, but restrained with you. They may joke freely in groups, but become formal in your presence. They may express confidence broadly, but tension specifically around you. Human behavior is patterned. When someone treats you differently in consistent ways, it signals an internal response, not an external one. Your presence alters their emotional baseline, and when people cannot regulate that shift, they distance themselves from its source. You did not cause this intentionally. You simply became a psychological stimulus they could not integrate. Now, an important clarification. Intimidation doesn't necessarily mean being superior. It usually means being integrated. Your values align with your behavior. Your words correspond with your actions. Your emotional state remains relatively stable across contexts. This coherence is uncommon. Most people rely on fragmentation. They shift personalities. They perform roles. They adapt constantly to avoid discomfort. So when they encounter someone who does not require that level of adjustment, it destabilizes them. Not because you threaten them, but because you represent a level of internal order they have not achieved. If you recognize these patterns, restraint is essential. Do not diminish yourself to manage other people's discomfort. Do not over-explain in pursuit of approval. Do not attempt to correct misperceptions prematurely. And do not mistake intimidation for hostility. Neutrality is the most effective response. Consistency is disarming. You do not need to assert yourself. You do not need to clarify your worth. Over time, reality corrects distortions without your involvement. Those who are threatened by who you are will either adapt or retreat, and those who are capable of depth will recognize something else entirely. Not intimidation, but gravity.